Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to what I have to say is probably the most bizarre, surreal assembly that I have ever done. And I was reflecting earlier about, I wonder how many assemblies over the years I've actually delivered, whether or not it'd be as head teacher here or as a deputy or whatever in a previous guise. And it must be in the hundreds. I've done assemblies outside, I've done assemblies having announced difficult situations in a school. I've done assemblies where I've had to talk about the buildings falling down, but I can honestly say I have never done an assembly to a whole school on my own in a library looking at a camera. These really are truly bizarre, surreal times. But I wanted an opportunity at the end of this academic year to just say hello and also goodbye for the summer and reflect on the last few months. So if I take us all back, just for a few moments, if I may, to I think it was the 20th of March of this year, so 5 months ago. On the 20th of March, I did a range of assemblies to the students to say, listen, various things in this world are happening and we need to temporarily close our school and to move into a different way of doing education, and certainly for year 11s and year 13s, for them to look at life in a different way and to face new and unique but surmountable, achievable challenges. Well, who would have believed back then on the 20th of March that this is where I would be stood now delivering this assembly? And really, over the last 5 months, we have seen things, borne witness to things, and watched more newsreels than we can possibly have imagined, and we really couldn't have written this script. But throughout, our students, our staff, our community has been an inspiration. I have seen more work, more truly engaging work from our young people than I have ever seen before. They've risen to the challenge and then some. And to be honest, this wouldn't be an assembly from Mr. War if I didn't say that they jumped in with both feet. It's usually on this day every year that I stand there in the in the sports hall in the leisure centre and say that I ask one thing of young people, and that's for them to jump in with both feet. And you hear the groan from the 1,100 teenagers in front of me that actually, oh, here he goes again, the same old phrase. But my word, have they ever? In a different way. They've jumped in and then some. This last week, I've had the pleasure of judging Poynton's Got Talent remotely. I've had the pleasure of reading and looking at all of the reading challenge winners that have been going on over the last few months. I've had the privilege of looking at the Key Stage 3 rewards evening work and all of those unsung heroes of our Key Stage 3. And also, what will be coming out over the next week or two are the annual awards. So everything from the Sue Adamson Award to the awarding of the Stuart Slade Trophy to everything in between, they'll be coming out, and those certificates and those awards will be coming out to you over the next couple of weeks. But if I just pick up on that concept of the unsung hero, I just want to really acknowledge to you all, to our students and our parents and our carers, just some unsung heroes of the last few weeks. And I can't start off without acknowledging the work of our site team. Our site team have taken a school which is built for 1,500 teenagers and 250 adults and transformed it. They have been here day in, day out, transforming a learning environment to be safe for how we've welcomed back some year 10s, some year 12s, and more recently, some year 9s. But throughout that time, since the 20th of March, we've provided a provision for our key workers, families, and our vulnerable students. And our site team have delivered and delivered day in, day out under very challenging circumstances. But also our support staff. We've had our IT technicians in. We've had our admin teams in, our finance teams in. All the staff from behind the scenes, who often don't get the recognition that they deserve, have been in, day out, as key critical workers to keep our industry going. On that front, I also want to celebrate and just acknowledge to you that we have some staff who are moving on this summer. So we have 3 members of staff who are moving on this summer onto other things, very exciting new challenges in their lives. So we have Mrs. Nellerman from Learning Support. Mrs. Nellerman's moving on to teacher training, and I know she will be a brilliant teacher in the classroom and in our industry in future years. We also have Mrs. Cronshaw moving on to teacher training. Mrs. Nellerman into English, Mrs. Cronshaw into product design and technology. And she again will make a phenomenal teacher in our industry. And also acknowledge Mr. Halliwell. Bradley Halliwell is our drama and theatre technician here in school. He's moving on to pastures new. He's off to the big smoke. He's going off to London to be a part of the Guildhall and the performance area down there, and he's starting his degree. A brilliant, brilliant member of staff who is going off onto some exciting things ahead of him. But we also have 2 members of staff who have been with us, I think, for a combined time of over 60 years. And it really wouldn't be an end-of-year assembly if I just didn't have an opportunity to acknowledge their service. So first and foremost, I would like to acknowledge the long service of Mrs. Jackson, Sheila Jackson, our Senko, the greatest advocate for some of our more vulnerable students. She is a passionate believer in special educational needs, and she's moving on to retirement. From us all, thank you, Sheila, for everything you've done. And last but certainly by no means least, we also say goodbye to retirement this year to Mrs. Guest, Penny Guest. Mrs. Guest has been a teacher here for over 30 years, and she has been a phenomenal part of our environment and our fabric for such a long time. She has been a trade union rep, a head of year, a learning coordinator, but more importantly, a passionate member of staff for the arts, and a passionate member of staff for every student who's had the privilege of being in her care. Again, Mrs. Guest, good luck for the future, and I genuinely hope you love your retirement. Just want to pick up on a couple of those bits of inspirational work. Our students do jump in with both feet, they do. And they are genuinely the most inspirational community that I have ever served. And I hope that as we come back in September, you will have that opportunity to get back into class, back into lessons, and everything will start to go back to what was normal. So just a bit about the future then. As I'm standing talking to you now, there is a letter coming home to all parents, and that gives a lot of detail on 6 pages. Apologies again that it's a very long letter from me, but on 6 pages, I'm trying to talk to you about what September will look like. We will have all 1,452 young people back in September. And we're going to phase that over the first week. And they're going to exist in their own bubbles, in their year group bubbles. And they'll have all of their lessons in those year group bubbles, but we'll still be able to deliver dance, music, practical science, PE, product design, alongside those academic subjects of the maths, the English, the histories, the geographies, the languages, and so on. So I'm very much looking forward to welcoming everyone back in September. Please take an opportunity to read that letter, read it with your parents, or parents, please read it with your children so they can see what's happening when they come back. And before we go off to the summer, I just want to make a plea, a massive plea about what the focus is for the summer. If I ask one thing, other than to jump in with both feet, it is to read. Because it is through reading that we will gain the language and the knowledge that will allow us to come back in September on that learning treadmill as fast as we possibly can. Because actually through reading, we gain our literacy, we gain our language, that language acquisition that we need in order to answer and focus on the academic subjects. So please, and it is a wholehearted plea, read a book, then read another book, And it doesn't matter what those books are, but engage with those books and really think about the character development, but gain those literacy skills, because that's what we'll have been missing. There's a lot of work in the media, a lot of news in the media that talks about the gap that's being formed. The gap, this learning gap, is one of language acquisition and literacy. And that is solved and driven through reading. Now, I have 4 teenage boys myself. They're not going to run in and say, "Daddy, let me have a reading book, please." So we're going to have to work together and engaging them to fill that gap, to make up these 5 or 6 months. And that's through reading. So please, get them a book. Give them the opportunity and the freedom to read. And let's work on this together. More on that about what we're doing in school over the summer. So, last from me. Wouldn't be an assembly if it wasn't a moral message, and usually that moral message would be jumping with both feet. But actually, last night, when I was struggling to go to sleep, for whatever reason, I started watching what can only be described as an awful film. The Bruce Almighty, I think it is, with Jim Carrey. An awful film, really, and I apologise, and please don't judge me for having watched the film. But the moral message came in at the end. The moral message of that film was, actually, there's more to life. There's more to life than that driven achievement and that driven sole focus on not remembering what's important, but having that single focus at the expense of everything else. That actually what comes out of this world is maybe a better world where we understand what it is that makes us content. We understand what it is that inspires us and that helps us achieve, and we celebrate that achievement. A world where equality and inclusion is celebrated. A world where what divides us actually unites us in equal measure. And actually, really what that film said at the end, be the miracle. It's as simple as that. If we are going to come out of this world, out of what we've had over the last 6 months, in a better way, in a better focus, you know what? Starts here. We, each individually, have to be that miracle. Be that miracle for each other. Be that miracle for yourself. Be that miracle for your family. Be that miracle for your friends. It's a big agenda. It's a big focus. Poynton High School, community, thank you for listening to me. I apologise that perhaps at times I go on when I'm going on an assembly. But you know, over the next 6 weeks, take time to be with your friends, socially distanced. Take time to be with your family, again, socially distanced. Read. But Poynton, be the miracle, because it is only through ourselves that we will make this world a better place. Have a lovely summer, everyone. Take care.